Good evening, everyone out there in internet land. You might find this on TikTok, you might find this on Facebook, you might find this on YouTube. I'm playing around with all the different sites. But you guys know me, Amli, your everyday light worker. And boy, have I got some incredible stories for you tonight. Yeah, I'm coming to you in the evening. It's close to bedtime for me. And I am in, wait for it, Sedona, Arizona. Sedona, Arizona. Quite an amazing place to be. I am so lucky and so blessed to be having this experience. First of all, the landscape out here is so extraordinary and incredibly beautiful that it gets credited for healing people, increasing people's spiritual awareness, helping people to make drastic transitions. And that is what I'm trying to do as your everyday light worker and generational curse breaker. That has been very difficult for me to get a hold of, because what I'm trying to do with regard to breaking the generational curses that are in my family is I'm trying to pull people out of really destructive cycles. And it's difficult. And so what happens, you have to ask yourself, am I pulling them out, or are they pulling me in to these destructive cycles? And I've had a rough go of it this 2026. I know we're only 2 months into 2026, but I've had a really rough go of it, considering the things that I have been dealing with in my family with regard to a niece that I have who struggles with addiction, and some of the things that she has taken me through, me and my whole entire family. It's not just me. We all have struggled with this girl. The latest thing is that she busted into my house, threw a brick through a window, which is very traumatic for me for a number of reasons, not just the obvious. Having a brick thrown through your window is kind of unsettling, but there's some history there that really upsets me with regard to that. She threw a brick through my living room window. She broke into my house when I wasn't there, and she stole, a substantial sum of money from me. So that made me feel so violated, and it also it incited just a lot of old anger that I have against people in my family who do these sorts of things. There's a part of me that just despises people in my family who do this. And I know that that is not the way. So this vacay in Sedona could not have come at a better time, and it wasn't something that I planned at all. How this came to be is that one of my besties, her name is Adrian, her mother passed. And Adrian's mother was so good to both me and Adrian that when I heard that she passed, I knew I had to go out to the funeral, which is being held in Scottsdale, Arizona. And my husband, who is not coming to the funeral, but he asked me, is that close to Sedona? And I was like, is it? Because Sedona has been on my bucket list for forever. I've always wanted to come here because it has a reputation for being this amazing spiritual place. It supposedly has these energy vortexes that just make your soul feel uplifted or cleansed or healed. And, there's just all this folklore around Sedona. And, it's the kind of thing that, we don't know. It can't be scientifically measured. Is it true? Is it not true? Is it just all hype? So I'm here to give you my take on Sedona. All right. So first, let me show you a picture of what Sedona looks like. Okay. That is really what it looks like. I mean, just gorgeous red rock formations everywhere. When you see it, this does not do it justice at all. This is a book, and it's in the book. The book has, pictures that were taken by a famous photographer who knows Sedona. Let me give him a shout out. What is his name? Because he's pretty famous down here. Bob Bradshaw. Bob Bradshaw is a pretty famous Sedona photographer. And now his son, John, is taking on the family tradition of taking these amazing, gorgeous pictures of the rock formations, the red rock formations in Sedona. It's so beautiful. You would not believe how beautiful it is when you're out here. I mean, those red rock formations are everywhere. And it's like being in a movie. It's almost like there are some places on earth that are so beautiful, you almost cannot believe it when you see it. Like, you'll be rubbing your eyes and you'll be like, is this real? Am I really seeing this? So Sedona's like that. Vermont is also like that. Oh my God, Vermont is just so gorgeous. And I find that nature is the most extraordinary and the most beautiful where there's just not a lot of people. People somehow destroy the incredible vibe of nature, because Sedona is essentially a desert, and it doesn't have a lot of people here because it's a desert. There's not a lot of water here, so it's hard to live where there's not a lot of water. But the plant life seemed to make it work. The animal life in the desert seemed to make it work. It's people that cannot live without a lot of water. So there's not a lot of people, you know, that you can find deep in that desert. Now, if you go into the desert and you hike, because there are people who do that, you do so at your own risk, because you can get hurt and there's no water, and the rangers will say, hey, look, enter at your own risk, because there's not a lot of water. This is a vast amount of land. We can't necessarily help you if you get hurt, but it is a national park. So Sedona, we are actually sitting in a national park, and it is it's extraordinarily beautiful. That's what I can tell you so far. I have taken tons of pictures. I'm going to try and upload them. I've already uploaded them to Facebook. I don't know how to upload pictures to TikTok or YouTube, but I'm going to work on it, because these pictures, this landscape is so extraordinary. You have to take a look at it. And once you see it, it's hard to believe. But let's talk about what supposedly, allegedly happens in Sedona when you come here. All right. So there's supposed to be vortexes in Sedona, and a vortex is a special kind of earth energy that is tied to the breathtaking red rock landscape. It's a center of concentrated earth energy where the spiritual or cosmic energy seems more palpable, more tangible, and the places are thought to support healing, reflection, and inner clarity. So all of that is work that I know that I need to do, because I know that my struggles with emotions are real. You know, I can get really, really angry and hold a grudge and just hold that anger for such a long time. And that's just not good. It's not good for my spirit. It's, you know, not good for the person I'm holding the anger against. It's so unproductive. And I need to figure out how to let this anger go and, you know, forgive and move on. That's a process. That's something that I'm learning how to do still to this day. Like, you know, I was really angry at my father for a long time, and it took me 20 years to get over that. And I had to write a book, and, you know, so much work with my anger. And I'm trying to learn how to get better and quicker at releasing that anger. So one thing the vortexes are thought to do are enhance meditation, boost emotional insight, boost healing and around your personal issues, and amplify your intention or your spiritual work. And you can do that through prayer. You can do that through self-reflection. Some people say they feel a deep inner calm that comes from being in this powerful, powerful natural setting. One thing that I will say about Sedona that I have noticed that I like is that it's clear that the indigenous people, they still have their footprint here. They haven't been completely wiped out like they have been in other areas of the country. Okay, in Ohio, there were indigenous people there. you don't see any remnants of, their culture or what they did or none of that. In Richmond, Virginia, a huge indigenous community, the Algonquins were there. And yet you don't have anything left of that, in the present day. And that's very sad. But here in Arizona, the Navajo Nation is still in full effect. Tomorrow, I'm going to go visit the Navajo Nation's storefront and, buy some goods and talk to them about what it's like being an indigenous individual in these United States that have basically declared war on the indigenous people. Always there's been a war declared on the indigenous people. And I could tell you how I am aware of that because I have gone to powwows in, wait for it, federal prisons. Yeah, I've gone to a powwow multiple times in a federal prison in Virginia. And it was one of the most powerful experiences that I've ever had in my life. There are no words to explain what a powerful experience this was, and how blessed and how just lucky and honored I feel to have had those indigenous prisoners of war invite me into their sacred holy space inside a federal prison. So one day I'll have to do a video on what that experience has been like. But right now, I'm just here to talk about my experiences in Sedona and how I feel it is changing me. So how I feel the Sedona experience is changing me is that I'm having synchronicities. So what a synchronicity is when something happens that you weren't expecting necessarily, but it's like this magical nudging from an unseen force that says, okay, you need to take a step in this direction. So one of the first things I did when I got to the West Coast, I flew into Phoenix. And there's a lot of woo-woo stuff here in Arizona. Like certain places have a lot of woo-woo stuff. Like Virginia Beach, for example, has a lot of woo-woo stuff because of Edgar Cayce. So Edgar Cayce was a psychic. He was alive in like the 1800s. And he wanted to set up this whole headquarters and this foundation at Virginia Beach. So the Edgar Cayce Center never got established when he was alive, but it is very much established in just an amazing place in Virginia Beach to go. It has the largest metaphysical library in the world. And Edgar Cayce Center has an incredible international reputation, and that it does not have here in America. Like, it's located here in America, but most Americans don't even know about the Edgar Cayce Center. But you ask people from all over the world, and they are very familiar with it, and they know all about it because it just is an extraordinary metaphysical place. And here in America, we don't delve deep into the metaphysics. They don't want us delving too deep into anything metaphysical because that puts you in touch with your soul. And here in America, they don't want you in touch with your soul. They want you in touch with capitalism. That's what they want you in touch with. Working yourself to death to make a profit for a corporation. That's all they want you in touch with in America. That's all the powers that be want you to be in touch with. So they kind of try to suppress this kind of woo-woo stuff because, they just don't want you to be in touch with your soul. If you're in touch with your soul, you will know that it's wrong to just kill people for profit. And they don't want you to know that. So, you don't hear much about the Edgar Cayce Center, and you probably haven't heard much about Sedona. But I have, because I've always been in touch with those kind of metaphysical kind of organizations. So, I've heard, from the Edgar Cayce Center, I've heard about Sedona, and I was like, oh my God, everybody talks about how wonderful this is. I've got to go. But it's all the way on the West Coast. I've been on the East Coast or the Midwest. Cleveland is where I'm at now. So, it's far. So, I had to get on a plane for 5 hours. That's absolutely excruciating to me to get here. And then when I got here, I landed in Phoenix and I went to this place, Vision Quest Psychic Bookstore. So this bookstore wasn't that extraordinary to me. Like I said, I've been to Virginia Beach. In Virginia Beach, there are tons of these kind of bookstores because, like I said, Virginia Beach is pretty woo-woo. Edgar Cayce Center is pretty woo-woo. So I'm familiar with this kind of thing. So I went to the bookstore and I browsed it. I didn't see anything exceptional that I had never seen before. Now, if you've never been to a metaphysical bookstore, you might be like, "Oh, what's this?" But I had seen it before. So I wasn't that stunned by it. I was looking for an oracle deck because I've got like 20 oracle decks. So if you know what tarot is, that's considered an oracle deck. And it's just these cards. Oracle decks are just cards that you use to try and figure out what's going on with your life. They tell you about, what could possibly happen in the future. So I came across this, the Mayan Oracle, a galactic language of light. Okay, so that caught my attention because I consider myself a light worker, and light workers deal with light. We deal with frequency. We deal with sound. We deal with, making changes to the environment, not with any physical apparatus, not with, a gun, not with the force, not with, that's, in Western culture, most things, they feel like you make a difference with force, you force. But no, light workers, what I use is I use my just raising the vibration, which is hard for me to explain what that is. We don't even have language to talk about these things. But suppose I walk into a room and I feel like people are really angry or frustrated or scared. I have to raise that frequency. And that's the light work that I do. And I can do it a number of ways. I mainly do it through talking to people. I'm a communicator. I wish that I was a musician because I think that musicians do it the best and the easiest. And I was born thinking I was going to have amazing musical talent, but sadly I just don't have any. I don't know why, because I feel like I should have that ability, but I don't. I don't have the ability to play any instruments or sing or anything like that. But, these are ways that you can raise the frequency. So I need to be more intentional in how I do that because I want to teach all of you how to break generational curses. That's what we're working on this channel with Amli, your everyday light worker. So when I stumbled across this deck, it didn't make any sense to me. This looks like no oracle deck that I've ever dealt with. Look at this. But the guy at the bookstore was going on and on and on about this oracle deck. He's like, this has been worked on for decades. It was the Mayans, people who knew the Mayan culture, that was completely erased by the conquistadors. Well, this is what he told me. He said the conquistadors they did a number on Mayan culture, and they erased everything that the Mayans had documented with regard to, human evolution. And the Mayans were really about that life. They were really about, they had this calendar. Everyone should know that the calendar ended in 2012, or not that the calendar ended, but a Baktun, that's how they measured time, ended. And that the end of that Baktun was huge because it meant that we were entering a new age. So a lot of people think that we are entering a new age. We're entering the age of Aquarius. We're leaving Pisces, which is the age of duality, and we're entering the age of Aquarius. So, there's a lot of speculation about what has happened to our world since 2012, because that was the end of the 26,000 year cycle according to the Mayans, right? So these cards actually speak to that phenomenon, right? So I'm going to read you the intro because the intro blew my mind. This is exactly what I have been looking for. I've been trying to understand, how do I do my work in this world that is changing, it's transitioning, it's, our world is crumbling. It's just crumbling. It just is. And, how do I stand firm in my intent to do light work in this crumbling reality that we're all a part of right now? So that's what this is basically a manual about. And, I'm looking for oracle cards in the bookstore. And I don't know. I was like, well, what caught my eye was a galactic language of light. And at the end of this this session, I will tell you why that caught my attention. But here is what the intro says. An introduction to a galactic language of light. The Mayan oracle is composed of 44 cards, 20 Mayan star glyphs, 13 numbers, and 11 lenses of the mystery. Together, the glyphs and numbers form the token, the sacred round of the Mayan calendar. However, the token is far more than just a calendar. It is also a galactic code to the workings of the universe. Within this sacred code, each glyph can be considered a different aspect or face of the creator. Now that is deep. So they're saying that these cards represent different faces of the creator. Now that is cool, isn't it? And this is called Ahua. So it's the language, it's in their language, so I don't know it. I have to look this up in this book to see what that represents. But each of these cards represents something. All right. So by working with the cards singly and in combination, you can vastly enhance your personal and spiritual growth. Wow. I'm blown away, because that's exactly what I'm working on. I'm working on enhancing my personal and spiritual growth. I am in therapy to try to figure out how to deal with this anger that I have, and to not, let it will consume me if I don't control it. So, I'm working very hard on that right now. And, this is just amazing that I came across this oracle deck here that is, helping me to do that. So it says the oracle is not intended as a fortune-telling device. Okay, so that's what the tarot is. The tarot, what's going to happen? What happened in my past? What's happening now? What's happening in my future? That's called a basic past, present, future spread that, happens in tarot. And, it's honestly very effective, I used to not believe in any of this woo-woo stuff. I was not a believer. Like my friend Stace, that's my bestie. She's a witch. She can work the fuck out of that tarot deck. And and astrology. She's big into the tarot. She's big into astrology. But all of that just sounded like jabber to me. But I've learned through experience that astrology, it's real. And that tarot is real. I have done some readings. You can do it yourself, where you just pull the cards and you would be astounded by how accurate those readings can be. So I've learned over time that oracle cards, tarot, all of that stuff is very valuable in helping you to navigate this reality. So this oracle deck, however, is not a fortune-telling device. It's not supposed to help you, in that way. It does not try to predict what will happen in the future or what course of action you should take to solve a particular problem. Rather, it is designed to help you grow spiritually and to form a sacred relationship with your essence self, the part of you that is in direct connection with the Creator. Wow. We in all these organized religions that we have, none of them try to really help you to understand that connection that we all have. We're all connected to source. But, most organized religion don't talk about that. Why? Because most organized religion is corrupt. And most organized religion just want to control people. So, the Mayans are talking about something entirely different. It is designed to help you become more spontaneous, open, playful, loving, and trusting. Not sometime in the distant future, but now, in the present moment. Its purpose is to help you hear your own intuitive voice and to keep pace with the changing energies of this profoundly transformative time. In using it, remember that you are the real oracle. You are the knower. All of this or any other oracle can do is create a clear connection to the deep well of subconscious knowledge that is already within you. Okay? So we have to all understand that we all have that connection to our creator. It's just a matter of tapping in. And it's hard in what I call the 3D matrix. So the 3D matrix, its whole goal is to cut off your connection to source. And, people rehabilitate that connection through prayer, through meditation, through mindfulness. There are lots of ways to do it. But this 3D matrix that we live in, all it does is try to sever that connection to source. Don't let them do it. Don't let them do it. While other systems deal beautifully with the awareness of your earth self, the Mayan oracle is designed to offer you a galactic perspective. Who are you in relation to the Divine One? How can you experience the world and your personal issues differently based on realizations through your essence self? What have you come to Earth to learn and contribute? What will assist you on your spiritual journey? And how does your personal process relate to the larger pattern? Okay, so I've worked with so many oracle cards, and I've never come across anything this powerful. This is powerful. The fact that so many real life Mayans who, were in touch with all of their own divination methods worked on this deck just speaks to itself. I have worked on decks. For example, I worked with this one deck that was Santeria based, and I don't know very much about Santeria at all. But I know that with this oracle deck, they required that you do you had to do an offering at the end of every reading. And this deck was so powerful that I would be like, yeah, I'm going to do the offering. I'll just get around to it when I feel like it. Oh no. This deck was so powerful that it would ensure that you did the offering you were supposed to do. So for example, one time I was supposed to make an offering of sitting down and listening to advice from an elder. And I was like, yeah, I'll do it. When I find an elder that I want to talk to, I'll get around to it. It was on my back burner. Let me tell you what this deck made happen. That very day that I did the reading, Maya Angelou comes on the TV, and she's doing this session with Dave Chappelle. And the way that she and Dave had it set up was that he's like, I'm here to get advice from an elder. And I sat there and I listened to the whole thing, and my mind was blown. I was like, wow, this deck, I think this deck was like, oh, you're playing around with the offering? We're not having it. We are going to put something on the TV that is advice from an elder, and you are going to listen. So that deck kind of had me spooked. I was like, okay, I'm not messing with that deck because you don't know what the offering is going to be. So, I'm like, no, I'm not playing with this, because they're like, you really got to do this offering. And, you just don't know. It will say by the cards you pull what the offering is. And so I just was not comfortable having to do an offering when I didn't know what it was going to be. So, my point is that the people, like a guy who was very well-versed in the Santeria, he created that deck. So who creates an oracle deck? It matters a lot. And with this, you have the Mayans creating the oracle deck. And in case you want to get this is by the Bear and Company, Rochester, Vermont. In case you would want to get this. If you're into this, I'm not saying that you should or you shouldn't. I know that it's just been extraordinarily helpful for me. And I picked this up on day one, and I wasn't even in Sedona. I was in Phoenix. So there's something to, the Arizona woo-woo. There's just something to it. And, that's all I have for tonight, because this has gone on for 30 minutes. It's late. I'm tired. And I have really enjoyed, this back and forth interactions that we have all had around doing the light work. I see that there is an interest, and you know, we just got to keep it going. And this Sedona trip, this is just it's giving me such a boost to my light work. So, you know, I will probably be referring back to that. We still have to get to, you know, I promise I'm going to get to, you know, the experiences that I had with my father, why they were so devastating, and how I worked through them. That's, you know, that is on the curriculum. But, you know, things keep popping up. This Sedona trip, I gotta, you know, I gotta document and record this, you know, for posterity, for everybody who might want to know and understand or come to Sedona. It is truly an amazing experience. I am just having the best time. So I will talk to you guys later. Until next time, Amli, your everyday light worker. Let's keep working with the light. All right, see you guys later. Bye.